Hello. Finland has had an election. This northern country seldom makes headlines. This time, the headlines may be all wrong. As is customary in Finland, power is basically distributed between three major parties. Two of them share the power in the government, and the third one is left outside. Some smaller parties may either join the government or stay outside. Finnish democracy is a two-step event. The people may have a say in electing 200 representatives to the parliament, also known as eduskunta. But the government is built by the party leader of the largest or winning party. He or she will then meet leaders of all parties and basically in secret meetings will build a coalition. No party has ever attracted over 50% of the vote, so the government may consist of any number of parties from all directions. 4 years ago, voices outside Finland, including the Financial Times, warned Finland not to take the Finns party or perussuomalaiset into the government. When the votes were counted 4 years ago, the Finns was the only party to gain in votes, percentages and seats. It also grew to become the fourth relatively large party in the parliament, in addition to the three old ones. Then, after very difficult negotiations, it was left outside the government into opposition, with basically no power whatsoever. Instead, 6 other parties from very different backgrounds formed the government, also known as the Six-Pack. What made the Six-Pack so difficult as a coalition was the composition of 6 very different parties. They were the liberal Greens, who support gay marriage, and the conservative Christian Democrats, who oppose it. And then there were the communists and the right-wing Kokoomus. It was indeed a lame duck from the very beginning until this election. Not only was the Six-Pack government unable to make any major decisions, except cutting the benefits for children who cannot vote in the first place. It also lost most of its initial ministers and 2 of the smaller parties. The Six-Pack was built by Jyrki Katainen, who later abdicated for the European Commission in Brussels about 1 year ago in 2014. He was not appreciated for this nor for his leadership, but there was worse to come. In the election for the European Parliament, Alexander Stubb gained more votes for the European Parliament than anyone else, but he did not go to Brussels. Instead, he was chosen the new party leader of Kokoomus, which was the largest party and consequently the leader of the Six-Pack government. In other words, Alexander Stubb was suddenly the Prime Minister of Finland without an election nor popular support. He endured the fall, winter and spring, and not only was his government a stub, pun intended, 2 parties left the government anticipating an interesting election for this month, April 2015. And there were initially 2 opposition parties since 2011. It was widely expected that both could gain more votes, as is customary in Finnish elections, if not universally. And this also happened. And the biggest winner was the centrist, or to some extent rural party, Keskusta, or the Centre, gained 21% of the vote and 49 seats. The Finns party gained 38 seats, which made it the second largest party in the parliament. So the two opposition parties became the two largest parties for the next 4 years. And this poses an interesting situation, as the Finns party has, for the first time ever, an opportunity to join the government. This has been opposed by all possible people, some Swedish journalists who basically forbid Finland to accept the second largest party into the government. The Finns party is perhaps the most misunderstood party in Finland. Yes, it has nationalistic tones in its arguments, but many of its voters are former supporters of social democrats, especially male factory workers. And this makes the Finns party more like a socialist party than extreme right, as populist journalists often claim. But then again, weren't the Nazis really National Socialists? The Finns party may join the government with a centre party which traditionally supports traditional values and rural culture. This, with the right-wing Kokoomus, would make Finland more conservative and right-wing than perhaps ever before. But except for Helsinki, Finland really voted for right-wing parties. At the same time, the self-proclaimed intelligentsia of Helsinki is crying that they do not belong to the Finland that is demonstrated through the election results. And this makes Finland perhaps more divided than ever. Whatever government is going to be built with a conservative center party, it will have an equally large group of enemies who, as the history shows, will certainly win the next election, when the composition of the government will make a 180-degree turn again. This is Uusimedia.com, and I am Markus Lehtipuu.